Hey there, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. Welcome back to Urban Odyssey. Today, we're going to go through this slideshow on the book Foundations, Their Power and Influence. That is tax-free foundations, um, NGOs, and this is kind of a continuation of the video that Juxtaposition and I did this previous week, which would have been episode 8. Where we talked about the RAND Corporation and the Stanford Research Institute. So we're going to dive into foundations a little bit. So let's get started. Foundations, Their Power and Influence by Rene A. Wormser. In this critique of mid-century philanthropy, Rene A. Wormser examines how major tax-exempt organizations exert a disproportionate influence on American society by promoting collectivist and internationalist ideologies. Drawing from his experience as counsel for the Reece Committee, the author argues that a small self-perpetrating intergroup foundations uses interlocking directorates to control the direction of social science research and public education. He contends that this concentrated power has been used to subvert traditional American values by financing biased textbooks and supporting radical educators who favor socialist reconstruction over capitalist principles. Ultimately, the text serves as a warning that the unchecked bigness of these foundations allows for them to manipulate public policy and national thought without the oversight of any significant counterforce. It's benevolent absolutism, and I hope you understood that if you watched the episode that Juxtaposition and I did. This is really a whole cast of soft power, and they're never talked about, they're never brought up, and they're not even addressed as such, which is a little bit underhanded, if you will. To not even acknowledge that there is power concentrated in these foundations is basically lying. We imagine progress as a democratic groundswell, but history reveals a different engine of change, a machine built in corporate law offices and fueled by tax loopholes. Industrial giants, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Ford, amassed fortunes that are now used to destroy or discredit the free enterprise system which gave them birth. So we've got a timeline, century of warnings, starting in 1915 with the Walsh Commission. Louis Brandeis warns of a state within a state and benevolent absolutism rivaling government power. The 1930s and 40s, a shift happens. Foundations move from charity to social engineering. Infiltration by collectivist ideologies begins. 1954, the Reece Committee, which is what that text that we're basing this presentation off of. The text is about the Reece Committee, and I will give you guys a link to download and read that yourself. Investigation reveals the interlocking of foundations, education, and foreign policy. One thing that I didn't put in here, I will mention it briefly, is the Pujo Committee. And then today, the outcome, an unchecked concentration of wealth influencing global policy and social norms. Yeah, this wasn't part of the presentation, but I'm going to mention it anyway. The Pujo Committee was a U.S. congressional subcommittee in 1912 and 1913 that was formed to investigate the so-called money trust, a community of Wall Street bankers and financiers that exerted powerful control over the nation's finances. After a resolution introduced by Congressman Charles Lindbergh Sr. for a probe on Wall Street power, Congressman Arsène Pujo of Louisiana was authorized to form a subcommittee of the House Committee on Banking and Currency. In 1913 and 14, the findings inspired public support for ratification of the 16th Amendment that authorized a federal income tax and passage of the Federal Reserve Act and passage of the Clayton Antitrust Act. Basically, they admitted, yes, the bankers own everything. They have achieved monopoly on the U.S. economy, but don't worry, we are going to fix that for you, and we're going to do that through the Federal Reserve. And that's the tactic being used today. They're definitely going to fix the scam. They're just going to put in a new scam that's hard for people to understand. All right, let's resume. Yeah, so this is a nice graphic that just kind of gives you an image to look at. If you've watched any of the content that Juxtaposition has done or that we've done together, you will quickly discover that these people are all connected. They all live in the same neighborhoods. They went to the same schools. Their parents and uncles are all living in the same complex and neighborhood. It's a very small world. So here are some important definitions. What are the definitions of institute and institution? Um, these are from Webster's 1828, and then the other one is from Webster's 1913. So these are older dictionaries. An institution, first on the left, the act of establishing an establishment, that which is appointed, prescribed, or founded by authority and intended to be permanent. Thus we speak of the institutions of Moses or of Lycurgus. We apply the word institution to laws, rites, and ceremonies which are enjoined by authority as permanent rules of conduct or of government. 3. A system, plan, or society established either by law or by the authority of individuals for promoting any object, public or social. We call a college or an academy a literary institution, a Bible society a benevolent, there it is, a benevolent or charitable institution. A banking company and an insurance company are commercial institutions. 4. A system of the elements or rules of any art or science. 5. Education institution. Or 6. The act or ceremony of investing a clerk with the spiritual part of a benefice by which the care of souls is committed to his charge. An institute. Literally, it means in and stature, to cause, to stand, to set. Institute, to set up, to establish, to ordain, as to institute laws or rules. 2. To originate and establish, to found, to organize, as to institute a court or a society. I forgot to read the definitions for a few more words, so I'm editing these in. First is foundation. This is from Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition from 1994. Foundation, a permanent fund established and maintained by contributions for charitable, educational, religious, research, or other benevolent purpose, an institution or association given to rendering financial aid to colleges, schools, hospitals, and charities, and generally supported by gifts for other such purposes. The founding or building of a college or hospital, the incorporation or endowment of a college or hospital is the foundation, and he who endows it with land or other property is the founder. Preliminary questions to witness to establish admissibility of evidence. Laying foundation is a prerequisite to the admission of evidence at trial. It is established by testimony, which identifies the evidence sought to be admitted and connects it with the issue in question. Okay, next up is endowment, to transfer generally as a gift of money or property to an institution for a particular purpose, such as a gift to a hospital for medical research. The act of establishing a fund or a permanent pecuniary provision for the maintenance of a public institution, charity, college, etc. The bestowment of money as a permanent fund, the income of which is to be used in the administration of a proposed work. The assignment of dower, the setting off a woman's dower. All right, and finally, a charitable foundation, an organization dedicated to education, health, relief of the poor, etc., organized for such purposes and not for profit, and recognized as such for tax purposes. What is a foundation? A foundation is a type of tax-exempt organization created to contribute to the improvement of the public welfare. Because its funds must be dedicated to the public, it is often considered a public trust. While a broad dictionary definition of foundation might include any endowed institution, this overview focuses on a more specific type, organizations that are primarily in the business of handing out money to others, rather than those that are essentially recipients of money for their own use, such as colleges or hospitals. To understand their role in society, it is essential to first distinguish between the different forms they take. So there are three main classifications of institutions or foundations. The first is a granting foundation. Primary function to purely provide grants to other organizations and individuals, and the key characteristic, they are the primary source of funds for others. Operating foundations, to use their own money for their own research and operational activities. They directly conduct their own charitable work. And then there are intermediaries, to act as clearinghouses or retailers that select beneficiaries on behalf of other foundations. Some may not have an endowment of their own and act as distributors for major foundations. The three primary advantages and drivers. As legal scholar and congressional counsel Rene A. Wormser noted in his analysis, the chief motivation for the creation of foundations is now predominantly tax avoidance or minimization. First, we have income tax reduction. For the very wealthy whose income is taxed at the highest brackets, a donation to a foundation can cost remarkably little. In some instances, a gift to a charitable purpose could cost the donor as little as 9 cents per dollar after tax deductions. Avoiding capital gains tax. When a donor gives appreciated assets, such as stocks or land that have increased in value, they can deduct the full market value without ever paying the capital gains tax. This tax saving can be so substantial that the net cost of the charitable gift is dramatically reduced, making it a highly efficient way to donate. And third, avoiding estate taxes, which we know the death and estate taxes have the end goal of destroying pretty much all heritage that is not part of their pure-blooded cult. It's basically a form of soft eugenics. The Ford Foundation serves as a powerful case study. The Ford family faced hundreds of millions of dollars in estate taxes, which it is hardly possible that they had enough liquid capital to pay. Selling a massive portion of their company stock to raise the funds might have endangered their control. The foundation offered a strategic solution. The family transferred about 90% of its non-voting stock in the Ford Motor Company to the foundation. This single action allowed them to escape the huge estate tax bill while crucially retaining the voting stock and thereby maintaining control.